This is Unscripted at 40, Episode 7, Soft Life, Hard Truths. Hey friends, welcome back to Unscripted at 40. I'm Wen, and today I want to talk to you about something I never thought I'd say out loud. I'm tired of struggling. Not just physically, but mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and I know I'm not the only one. Hey friends, real quick, if you've been thinking about launching your brand, refreshing your business visuals, or just getting your digital ish together, I got you. I offer branding kits, Canva templates, pitch decks, Etsy and Shopify support, as well as custom designs through my creative brand, Wen Designs, and so much more. Everything is done by me, from design to delivery, and I keep my pricing accessible because I know what it's like to build from scratch. You can connect with me on IG at Unscripted at 40 to find out more. Let's bring your vision to life. So we grew up being praised for being strong, for pushing through, and for putting everyone else first. We were taught that peace had to be earned, and that rest, relaxation was just lazy. That ease meant we weren't doing enough or being productive enough. But you know what? I'm unlearning all of that. And it's been extremely liberating. I've been forced to sit down and just stop and smell the roses. I have been so conditioned to believe that ripping and running and just having a full schedule, working more than 40 hours a week meant that I was productive and taking advantage of life and really making the most of it. But in reality, I feel like that's the opposite. Being able to slow things down and really just sit in stillness and take my time and not rush things, not think about tomorrow, next week, next month, next year, the next 5 years, all the time, has really freed up a lot of my mental and emotional space and made room for more creative hobbies, more things that I like, enjoying conversations with people that a lot of times I rush through. And I encourage you to try to do that in any area that you can, as small as it may be. So let's be clear. This soft life thing, it's not a trend. It's not, I know it's a catchy term, soft life. I know we see it all over social media. But for me, it's like I'm reclaiming my life back. It's about boundaries, stillness, what I like to say, nervous system safety, that ridding myself of that anxiety, that depression, that stress that comes along with all the overthinking, all the fast movements, all the appointments, and all the go, 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 just letting that go has been just such a freeing experience. And it has been a really hard shift for me at the same time, because unlearning and deprogramming all that we've been taught, that our worthiness, our achievements, are based off of how productive we are and how much we sacrifice day to day, especially in the career field. But I would say even outside of that, in the home life, how many kids do you have? How many kids are you raising? Where are you putting them in school? What are you teaching them with this, and that? And it all just goes hand in hand, or just even in relationships. Oh, when are you guys getting married? What are you guys having the wedding? Where's the honeymoon? When is the family starting? Just all these things that force us to think of our future constantly as if it were a race. And it's really not, because the next thing you know, in a blink of an eye, life has passed you by, and you've spent so much of it just focused on what's happening tomorrow, next week, next month, that you don't realize all the things that you've missed out on in the present. It's not really just like, oh, self-care days, spa days, days off, PTO, mental reset day. Those are great in theory, but the fact that we just sprinkle them in every now and then when we're at a breaking point doesn't really make it any better. I'm talking about doing these days consistently, making them part of your routine. not just when you feel like you're about to snap or you're at your breaking point. I know we are wired for chaos, and we feel that sometimes being in that chaos is normal. So I'm slowly giving myself permission to do less, to need help, to be okay with asking for help, because that was such a big deal for me. It felt like me asking for help was proving that I was weak or incapable of doing what I needed to do, of surviving, if you will. And the same with like resting and taking time off and not always having to do something or clean something or, just have this schedule full of different things. It's okay to have an outline of what you need to get done and a task list, but if it consumes every waking minute, that's when it becomes an entrapment. And being able to take time to say, you know what, I need to recharge today. I just can't do it. That's okay. That doesn't mean you're a failure. That doesn't mean you're failing. It doesn't mean you're incapable. It just means you just need a minute to rest. You don't need to earn your worth through exhaustion, through working extensive hours or working yourself to the bone. That's not what life is about. And somewhere along the way, we lost that. And we feel like that's the only way to prove that we have been successful and accomplished so much in life. And again, there's nothing wrong with wanting to be ambitious or an overachiever. But where the lines get blurred is when we don't set those boundaries and we don't allow room for recharge and enjoyment, just taking a minute to enjoy the sunset. It doesn't hurt to sit there for 30 minutes to an hour and watch the sunset, or sleeping past sunrise. We often feel as if we're not up at the crack of dawn, we're not taking advantage of the day. But whether you take advantage, 18 hours of a day or 8, it doesn't determine your worth. And sure, yes, realistically, we know we have bills to pay and mouths to feed. And so, yes, work is a crucial part of survival, just living day to day. There is something to be said in the way you take downtime and the way you allow yourself to rest. And sometimes all of that extra work, running around, making sure you have to have something on your to-do list every day, those things can lead up to anxiety, depression, if you don't set those boundaries and take time to take care of yourself and your needs. No one is saying you have to have all of this figured out by any means or any age. And I feel like sometimes we're just so hard on ourselves. I know I was, and I still am to an extent. But I am slowly releasing that grip I had on needing to have this perfect life scripted out that I didn't need to fulfill by the time I was 40. Just even that in itself, all the things I said, by 40, I need to have this done. And life has proven the opposite. It has taken away from me the things that I wanted to have done or needed to have accomplished in my mind, and said, nope, we're taking this away from you. We're removing it, because that's not what life is about. It doesn't mean just because I've hit 40 that my life is over and that I can't accomplish anything else. And so, in fact, I've had to sit back and really go back to the drawing board and really look at what I want to do, not what I feel needs to be done. And I do have a task list. I do have a day calendar of what I need to work on throughout each day. And for the most part, it's pretty, I make sure I have those boundaries in place, and it's never anything that's going to overwhelm me. And I've had days where I have a lot to do, and I get to a point where I'm cross-eyed, I'm seeing double, I'm just so tired. And I caught myself saying, no, you have to get this done. You got to keep going until you get this done. And then there was a point where I stopped myself and said, this doesn't make sense. I'm working myself into exhaustion, and most likely not even putting my best effort into what I'm working on. And so I took a step back and said, nope, we'll come back to this tomorrow. And yes, it does throw my to-do list off. I do have to like now shift everything around, but it wasn't the end of the world. It didn't make or break me. And so the next day when I got up and got myself together and got to work and back into what I was working on the night before, I got it done within an hour, less, because at that point I had such a fresh mind, fresh outlook. I was rested. And it was just a little reminder to myself that this is why I'm doing this, because I need to take the time to give myself a break when needed. And so as I'm going through this shift and really starting from scratch, from ground zero, working my way up into what I want to do next, there's been a lot of trial and error, and it's been really weird that at this point in my life, I've had to stop and say, well, let's try this. Okay, that didn't work. Now what's next? And so in a way, I feel like I'm back in my younger years, like my 20s, except for I have much more responsible mindset. I have different goals, or I actually have real goals than when I did when I was in my 20s. I don't feel like I'm failing or I'm not hard on myself as much as I was when I was younger. And yes, it's the same feeling of feeling sort of lost. But this time, regardless of feeling this lost feeling, I still feel confident in myself that I know and I'll figure out what I need to do. I don't have that lingering and looming anxiety anymore. Some days are hard. I'm not going to, say that this is all rainbows and butterflies. This process has been challenging and trying. But I say all that to say that having boundaries, having a plan, and being okay with that plan not working out as you expected it, or really just shifting gears to say, I'd rather just have an outline. Let's just keep it an outline and let it work out how it needs to. That's okay too. All of this, and living my soft life in the sense of just living life with ease, more ease, and really appreciating the present moment. That has been such a big lesson for me, is learning how to just stay in the present moment. I know there are times we have something we look forward to during the week, or dread something during the week that we have to look forward to, but it's okay to not really think about that today. It's, the weekend, or it's my day off. I don't need to think about that meeting that's happening in 4 days. I don't need to let it consume me and take away from my present moment and my present day. So I have found a practice in just when my mind has escaped me and gone down, next week, next month, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? When I start having those like anxious questions, I really bring myself back into a space of meditation. And if it's a really bad one, I really start questioning, why am I thinking this? And I answer my own questions, and I have this internal dialogue, and it helps me kind of iron all of that out. And it brings me more into a logical state than a state of panic and anxiousness. And so I invite you that if you have a lot of these what if questions, or you start filling up with doubt, kind of play your own devil's advocate and ask yourself, questions that make sense and bring logic. And if that's the challenge, then start with just taking 5 minutes of just quiet. Whether you put on a guided meditation, just, some sort of music, or find a song that you might like that, will bring you into a space of calmness, because that's important too. If you're learning how to slow down, rest, and receive, just know it takes courage. The soft life is radical, and it's yours if you want it. Don't forget to check out my page, wendesigns.online, and get your free daily manifestation journal page, and check out my digital tools as well. So until next time, friends, stay gentle, stay present, and don't be afraid to go off script.